Okay. Listen, Arlen, this is just a game, so we have nothing to be afraid of.
No worries, Shrimpy, I know. I mean, we did just finish a deep sea exploration game. We got. This. This is Narcosis, an atmospheric first person horror game by indie developer Honor Code, centered around surviving after an earthquake hits the underground research facility you're a part of.
Is this a spoopy poopy or a critical hit? Find out on today's episode of Critical Review. By the way, Arlen, can I sleep in your room tonight?
I mean, Lovey kicks in her sleep, so you get the floor. Anyways, first things first, Narcosis isn't a walking simulator, so beyond directional keys, you also get a handy-dandy knife to fend off hostile submarine life. Does not work on giant enemy crabs. Flares, which are both to light the darkness and to use as distractions, and a booster, which is basically going to be your best friend.
Because it lets you be a shining blade in the darkness, cutting down evil fish by moonlight, and saving love by daylight. Oh, and because it lets you jump and stuff. You're really slow without it.
Yeah, one of the characters describes the suits as a walking coffin, and it's not inaccurate. You're slow as hell, like ponderous even, and your vision is limited by the constraints of your suit's helmet, which can be daunting at times. Things will dart out from the edge of your peripheral vision or take refuge in your blind spots. Screw you, cuttlefish.
They just want to hug you and avoid your one repeated diagonal knife thrust.
I said cuttle, not cuddle, shrimp. I don't want tentacle face hugs. That's how we get aliens, or I guess asphyxiation in this game. Anyways, with all that said, the controls still felt mostly accurate, with the moments where I got my bulky ass suit wedged somewhere feeling like my fault more than the game's. And the boost was great for both platforming and hawking along like a rocket-propelled rabbit down hallways to save time.
And saving time is important, not just because you want to get out of this creepy place as soon as possible, but also because you have limited air. And air is consumed even faster when you're in a stressful situation, like watching someone die horribly, being attacked by mean marine life, poking dead bodies to loot their ID cards, or because of your spooky hallucinations.
More on the above in a bit, but yeah, all of that serves to make your limited reserves of oxygen deplete even further, helping to build a constant sense of tension for the player as they travel across the desolate ocean bottom. Thankfully, you can replenish your oxygen either at sparsely distributed stations or one-time use air canisters, but you'll still likely find yourself running low at times and desperately scrounging for some life-granting O2, at least during your first run through, and definitely if you're running around trying to get collectibles.
The player has to survive by traversing damaged platforms, rocky outcroppings, maze-like caves, and other obstacles through platforming segments. You'll also be out looking for keycards and switches, or just navigating the weird hallucinations you keep having.
And they are weird, since they're not only a source of jump scares and tense, unsettling moments, they also have a habit of making havoc with your sense of direction and overall making sure you never get too comfortable with the surroundings. And for those with vertigo, they can be really uncomfortable. Sure, some of these moments may feel a little bit cheap in their habit of popping up in your face. Others are more disorienting and creepy, managing to retain their impact even on a repeat playthrough. They all fit in with the theme of exploration and navigating the world itself, however, and definitely do give proper homage to the whole idea of narcosis. And I meant that as the literal term narcosis, not the game's title.
Oh, and on that note, the sea creatures in this game aren't very friendly. The anglerfish will try to bite your face, the squid and octopi will try to bite your face, or shoot ink on it, and the giant crabs will try to slice through your face, or chest. And then there's the red light freezy boy, who will try to freeze your face. You can smack the anglerfish and squids away before they grab you, or button mash to get them off if you were too slow. The giant crabs are invincible, but they'll be delayed by a flare, while the red light guy doesn't care about anything you do to him.
Yeah, whilst the smaller bits of sea life can be killed, and with proper timing, murdered before they can cause any real issue to your oxygen, The crabs are pretty much always an issue that either signals you shouldn't be going down a certain path, or that you need to find a creative solution to get past it. Especially since getting close to one of them tends to result in them putting their mandibles through your mouth and turning you into a fleshy pincer puppet. They're like crustacean-flavored proximity mines, basically. Compared to them, the red-lighted diving suit, I'm not calling him a freezy boy, really shrimp, is more there for creeps. He's not too bad of an issue, as he tends to give an indication of proximity based on your suit slowly icing over, unlike the crabs who just go from 0 to murder. So, I really liked this game's story, both for its content, its presentation, and the unique twists it took. I didn't have to endure endlessly long cutscenes where I lost control, with the narrative instead being presented in a number of different ways.
One of the ways you get lured in this game is by collecting ID cards to get information added to your database about the corpses,
Co-workers,
ex-coworkers you find them on. The database entries are usually a friendly description of the person that suddenly end with some super dark line.
I mean, some of them are sort of philosophical, like tamed motivational posters. There's also items hidden about the area, all of which carry significance to one of the crew members and help to say a bit more not only about them, but also the player character. And, most prominently however, is the dialogue. Beyond the distorted crackles of a radio that you'll occasionally hear, what you'll instead be treated to at frequently all too appropriate times is what sounds akin to a conversation between the player character and another individual, seeming to reflect on the events that are occurring across the game.
But is it an interview, interrogation, hallucination, or just you talking to yourself? The game will fill your head with questions like this.
Again, the prominence of the hallucinations is interesting, however, and ties in neatly to both the settings and the name of the game, as nitrogen narcosis, a sort of impaired state of mind that can cause paranoia, vertigo, hallucinations, and other severe symptoms, is something known to happen to deep divers.
The art in Narcosis leans towards the realistic style. There are actual real-life photos of your crew members in the database, and the 3D models are at least real enough to be disturbing. The animations are simple but effective. The normal animations seem normal, and the creepy Uncanny Valley twitching animations make you glance over your shoulder for days after you finish the game.
The environments, especially when you're walking out and about the seabed, is lovely, and I honestly found the graphics to be fairly appealing. I also dug a lot of the interesting visual screws that occurred as the game progressed. I wasn't quite as bothered by some of the twitching or other unpleasant bits, but some of these visuals did get to me. Still, I think there is something to be said for a game that can cause you to pause and just look around an area, or get immersed in exploring enough to forget that you're in the process of slowly suffocating to death.
I found the environments too boring to be interesting. Unless something creepy was around me, it just felt like normal, boring underwater stuff. Definitely not objectively bad environments, but they really weren't my style. The voice acting in the game was great. There was a dialogue going on in sections of the game that was really well done. I'll try to avoid spoilers here and just say that it often brought to mind a setting for the conversations through tone without actually showing you anything or telling you where they were. The voices were also clear and just generally nice to listen to. But none of the sound effects really stood out to me, and the underwater ambient stuff didn't appeal to me at all either.
I'll admit it, I am totally a fan of atmospheric games, so I'll say up front that I enjoyed both the ambient music and the ocean sounds. It was at once eerie and yet sort of serene. Plus, it was neat hearing stuff swimming through the water near your head. More prominently, however, was the game's dialogue, which came in both the form of the narrator's conversation, which parallels the story brilliantly, as well as the more subtle bits of dialogue you'd hear over the radio, giving you an indication of what was happening at large at the base, as well as where you needed to go next.
Most of the time, I felt either stressed out or creeped out by this game. You're meant to be stressed in your constant search for oxygen or escape from your hallucinations. These things don't appeal to me. While the voice acting was very well done, I didn't really find what was being said to be interesting. Even though there's nothing to complain about as far as art quality goes, I found the visuals to be boring. I wouldn't recommend this game to anyone who isn't already a huge horror fan looking for the next fix.
Now, in my case, I actually really appreciate Narcosis for what it is, since it gave an immersive and altogether enjoyable experience shambling along the ocean floor, balancing a feeling of exploration, desperation, and tense creepiness. Sure, there were moments I felt were a bit cheap, but the fact that the game could genuinely surprise me and weird me out or creep me were things I enjoyed and still enjoy. Whilst there aren't Whilst horror games aren't the main game that I play, I do enjoy decent horror games, and this one definitely felt fairly interesting. That, and I thoroughly enjoyed the story enough that I actually went through the game again just to collect the rest of the lore and ideas so I could better flesh out the background details. Honestly, my only regret is this: while some aspects remained creepy on the second playthrough, others became significantly more predictable. Still, could be worse.